this is Kelly Sadler, and this is this week's Politically Unstable. Today, I'm joined by Linda McMahon. She is the chair of America First Policies Institute, and she's also the chair of its Center for American Worker. Welcome, Linda.
Thank you so much, Kelly. Good to see you. Nice to be with you.
Nice to be with you, too. So last week, AFPI put out what they called the Hope Agenda. And it's structured toward working women. We've been having the abortion debate. We will have the abortion debate up until November, but it gives a different perspective of looking at this debate and supporting women, which I think is so critical when we're talking the issue of abortion. It's a choice that no woman wants to make, but if she's given the tools that she needs to bring the child into life, it provides her with opportunity, and hopefully will result in less abortions. So could you kind of walk me through what the Hope Agenda is and kind of what you're doing to kind of get this message across to lawmakers?
Sure. Republicans have long looked at the abortion issue as just a choice. One choice or the other choice. That you either are for abortions or you're not for abortion. And that's really not what it is. It's not a binary choice. The Hope Agenda is really to say we support a woman's rights as well as the child's rights. And we want to make sure that every woman has the opportunity to make that decision. We have found that studies with women who've had abortions, 6 in 10 of them have said that they received pressure either from a male partner or family or financial concerns or even sometimes employers that, they had to make the choice to have an abortion for those reasons. And we wanted to make sure with the Hope Agenda that we were supporting women and that they knew that they were going to be supported, by either government programs, their employer programs that gave them more choice, and so that they could choose to keep a baby if it was strictly financial. And we also believe with the Hope Agenda that there are those instances where abortion should be considered, whether it's the life of the mother or rape or incest. We're supportive of that as well, but hopefully those are less frequent. And the ultimate goal really is to reduce the number of abortions in our country.
So, I mean, this agenda basically has three tenets. The first is, family paid leave. And I like this because as Republicans, we're like, oh no, we don't need more welfare programs in this system. But this really is looking at through the eyes of the employer and incentivizing employers to provide these benefits to their employees. So could you talk to me a little bit about kind of what employers can do to help women have an easier choice or actually have a choice to bring life into this world?
Well, let's look at it from this position to start with. I like the plan that the state of New Hampshire has adopted. The state of New Hampshire, it is responsive to your question, but I think you'll see.
Yeah.
The state of New Hampshire actually bought an insurance policy, for all of its employees. And then what it did was open it up to the private sector. So the private sector could contract directly with the insurance company relative to providing leave for pregnancies or for emergency family situations. So it may be that the state of New Hampshire provides, I believe it's 8 weeks of paid leave for maternity leave, et cetera. And the employer might not be able to, and the private sector might not be able to provide that same number, but could contract for 6 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever the employer could afford. And that's better than zero to help, that mom who's going out on maternity leave, or if they, whatever other issue they had relative to family needs. So I think to have the public-private partnership is a really good thing.
Yeah. And another tenet of, the Hope Agenda is providing childcare options, because childcare costs are very expensive. It's almost prohibitive for women to go back into the workforce. They're working basically just to pay for childcare. So it's a flush. So what incentives do you have in terms of lowering childcare costs or making it more accessible for women who don't think they have any options to bring life into this world?
Well, under President Trump, under the Tax Cuts and Jobs bill, they did double the child care
Mhm.
credit, and from 1,000 to 2,000. And I think there may be room still on the federal side, but I think states could look at that, as well. States could also look at giving companies tax breaks. The federal government could also give companies tax breaks for providing more child care leave. I think that would be, one way to do it. Tax incentives then aren't really costing the states,
Mhm.
and I think that would be one way to give them, more incentive.
No, absolutely, and it's one of those things where if we're giving subsidies out to people who want to buy EVs, right? I think that we can afford focusing on giving employers, incentivizing employers to kind of expand childcare options to even maybe even have those options on site in the company.
Oh,
Um,
I absolutely. So for governments then to provide tax relief for companies who would provide that kind of childcare on site is a great incentive to do that, and it helps working moms. It helps the companies. When you're an employer and you lose an employee for 6, 8, 12 weeks, the work still has to get done. And if you're going to pay that person to be gone and then have to still pay for the work to get done, there needs to be some incentive for the employer to be able to do that in terms of, I think, tax credits or tax relief.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea. And if we have, if we get Trump back in the White House in 2024, that's I think a lot of families are in need of some tax relief after the Biden price hikes, and that's one way to incentivize the overall economy as well. And the last tenet, of of your plan, I find very interesting. You say that employers that provide women with the cost to travel to get an abortion and then cover the abortion should offer as much assistance to women who choose to keep their child. So they should also offer a prorated adoption services and maybe IVF services. I think that's a very unique proposition, but how would it play out in the real world?
Well, again, I think each employer has to take a look at that, what they can afford. But when Roe v. Wade, was those rights were returned to the states, there were many employers who spoke up right away and said, you know what, in my company, women want to have an abortion, I'll pay for their travel, I'll give them paid leave, I will help them
Yeah.
during the frame. Well, I think that's I understand, and I think that's an employer's best interest to keep those employees and to take care of them. But I also believe that the same thing should be done for women who are choosing to keep their children, for adoption costs, for IVF treatments, et cetera. And I believe it's for the benefit of the employer as well to be treating those employees, the same way. I think that there could be tax credits or tax incentives for the employers who do help their
Mhm.
employees in that same regard. It just seems to me to be a win-win.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. So, President Trump said basically it's up to the state to decide what their abortion policy is. That Roe, overturning Roe, put it back to the states, put it closer actually to the voters to determine this issue. What are you doing? Are you is AFPI working with local state legislatures to propose this agenda? Are you working it on the federal side? What are you doing to kind of get in front of these lawmakers and say, here's a path forward that's compassionate and provides empathy and support for the woman?
Well, what we do at AFPI, as you know, is research and write policy.
Hmm.
But now that we have developed the Hope Agenda, we have really kind of taken it on the road, talking a bit more about it. We've put it on our website. We also offer to the legislators to take a pledge to support the Hope Agenda. So if they take the pledge, their messaging is the same as that of the Hope Agenda, in which we are supporting the life of the mother and the baby, but that the mother does certainly have more options to have support. I think it's the right message to send. I do believe that when President Trump says that he believes it's a states' rights issue, but we want to define that more. And I like the way he says it better when he talks about it's really the will of the people.
Yep.
There's the will of the people who've elected the legislators in their states to formulate those rules. And if they don't like the rules, then they put new people in office and they change the laws. And I think that he has a very good way of putting that forward. He's also said that he would not sign a national abortion law,
Mhm.
again, supporting the states' rights to establish, each for their own. And I know that's difficult in some states where the laws are much stricter, but then that does give opportunity for those who want to move out of the state to elect new representatives to change their laws. It really does become more the will of the people.
Yeah, no, I also like, Donald Trump's his phrase, like, in order to save the country, we need to win elections. And for as much progress as the pro-life movement has made, we still haven't won over hearts and minds, everyone's hearts and minds. And I think that this approach, this hope agenda, is taking the conversation into what more Republicans need to start talking about, not just
Sure.
abortion, but support for the mother, and sympathy and empathy, because our approach is actually the more compassionate approach when you're juxtaposing it against Democrats wanting abortion rights all the way up into the ninth month of pregnancy and then maybe thereafter, our Governor Northam, past Governor Northam proposed a few years ago.
Yeah, it to me, the extremist position of liberals who do believe that you just literally can kill a baby right up to the moment of birth, and as you said, right after. The majority of Americans do not believe in that. Even those who believe that a woman has the right to have an abortion, they don't believe that you should be able to do that. I mean, that's infanticide. And I think it should be continued to be pointed out that that is such an extremist position. And every Democrat in Congress voted, for that bill, which literally says that you can abort a baby up till the moment of birth. And I just think that that is not the position that most Americans have. And it certainly puts us very differently on the world stage
Mhm.
that, other countries don't even allow that. So
Yeah. Other than North Korea and China. So we're on the same page as North Korea and China. But you're
yeah,
right. All of the European countries, it's 12 to 15 weeks where they cut off access to abortion unless the mother's life is at risk.
sure. And so I think we just need to be more mindful. I think we need to support women, give them better chance at being able to work. I was a working mom. I know how difficult that is. It takes a village.
Hmm.
You certainly know how
Yeah,
difficult
I
it is.
do.
3 boys,
Yeah.
if I recall correctly, and it's a full-time job being a mom. And if you are a working mom, you just have to have assistance and help. And I do believe that the financial support that we can provide moms by giving employers, tax breaks, tax incentives to do those kinds of things is just something we ought to look at across the board. And uh, we can do that. We can be more supportive.
Well, Linda, thank you so much for joining us this week. I hope that every elected Republican reads the agenda, adopts the proposal, because this is a message that everyone can unite around and have consistent messaging as we broach this topic of abortion, which again is going to come up and be probably maybe front and center even in the November elections. So thank you, Linda.
Thank you, Kelly.